This is the grand finale to my Apollo series. So, well, Apollo mystery. So, yeah, in the last video we just launched Skylab up into orbit, but as you can see I just had this set on 1B, launched it here. Its thrust-to-weight ratio is really high and it's a bit wonky. But yeah, so this is a crewed mission that visited Skylab. Well, one of them, because of course there were many that went to visit the Skylab. But yeah, we're just separating first stage and going on to the S4B stage. Just trying to get our Apple apps right, to the right level, and also I have my inclination set in a weird way. Yeah, I'm not the best at encountering, I will say that. I tried to get a direct one, and also RCS was taking forever, so I kind of screwed it up a bit, as you saw there. But that's fine, that's not a problem. So, just completing this burn here. Add a quick save, because of course you always have to quick save every so often, just in case something bad happens. And yeah, I just did that, and that would get my orbits closer, and then I just used the maneuver node to experiment over how I could get them even closer. And yeah, I was finally able to get it. Of course, quick saving, because you know, you don't want to have another situation basically where your spacecraft blows up. See, I ended the quick save at exactly the right time, but you have to completely decelerate, as our relative velocity compared to the target, the Skylab, is 400 meters per second, as you can see there. And also I screwed up, so I just reloaded the quick save. And I crashed into the ground again. So you can see me here, I'm just redoing the burn because I crashed into the ground as it lowered my periapsis a bit too much, which was unfortunate. But that's okay because we're now doing this. So yeah, just performing another maneuver node, slowly turning, just to get the right approach. And trying to lower the relative speed as much as possible. Doesn't matter too much, because you can just burn retrograde relative to the target when you're near it. I always end maneuver nodes, just a good recommendation as well for you. Ends them, so yeah, just separating the attachment node. Just end the maneuver nodes right as you're about to complete them, so you can just see how it moves yourself. But yeah, the target I burned like a lot, basically, to slow down our velocity. And trying to dock again. I also forgot to put RCS thrust on the Skylab, so it only has one. Also, time warp moves it. Well, not physics warp, but just hyper warp. Yeah, I forgot to put RCS thrusters on, so it's rotating now. But that's because the probe core, that's the reaction wheels on the probe core. It's a bit of a problem, especially since I can't get docking ports aligned very well. But yeah, just completely slowing down. That's not how you dock. And also, the RCS I of course screwed up there. So yeah, docking, not the easiest thing to do. And I just walked really far away, and I just thought I should try again and wait until my velocity's lower and choose the engine to get closer at first, because that's better using the AJ10 or the RJ10 in real life. Just pause the game quickly, just to inspect. I didn't quick save it though that time, I don't know. And of course had to unswitched it as a target, which was very annoying. And yeah, the second time, this is the interactive IVA mod, as you saw there. I had all those buttons in the cockpit which do work. Capsule cockpit, control panel, and we're docked. So obviously this is how crew got to the actual thing, but yeah, we were able to walk around inside the space station. I got a bit confused for a second as we were walking through adapters, but I didn't realise the free IVA mods doesn't care. So yeah, just looking through the windows, and I noticed pressing F3 deleted the solar panels briefly. And there's a control panel, yeah, but yeah, you just press C to get back to your seat, but that's the end of it. So now we're just going to slow down and quick save, of course, because now we are yeah, I time warped a bit too much there again. Now we are obviously deorbiting, so just separating, just experiencing a lot of G-force. I also unbuckled my seats in my seat just to see what would happen. That's the drogue chutes deploying. They slow you down enough to prevent damage to your parachutes, and just deploying the parachutes here, waiting for the craft to drift down to the surface very slowly. And here we go. So the next rocket is the Soyuz, and this is because this is really the final thing in the Apollo program. Basically, was where so the Russians had their own rocket until about 2 years ago. After the final space shuttle mission, it was the only way for people to get to the ISS or into space. Astronauts. The Soyuz rocket, or the R-7 rocket, which first launched Sputnik back in 1957, first artificial satellite, and that's been heavily modified over the years. The Soyuz is the capsule on top, which you see me building here, and it's interesting looking craft. But yeah, the Soyuz, I believe its first launch, so unfortunately ended up in the astronauts dying. Cosmonauts, sorry, because that's a Russian name for them. But yeah, it's a kind of a weird design. It has like this, the engine, then around it has this areas protruding outwards, but they don't actually protrude outwards from the outside the craft, and also these covers here. And that's basically because they're offset inwards. Yeah, I couldn't get those covers to fit very well, and eventually I just decided, you know what, whatever, get rid of them. So yeah, that was that. I had to offset them, but yeah, the R-7 is a very capable and successful rocket. Launched for a very long time, still launches today. And yeah, so I just offset the antennas, building the launch escape system, of course, just in case something goes wrong. Even on Soyuz, ironically, launch escape system, which is supposed to save the astronauts, actually killed them. Well, not the astronauts, but ended up causing fatalities at one point, because at one point they had a Soyuz and they scrubbed the launch. Then some engineers came up and they fired tests, and the launch escape system fired, and it lit the rocket fuel on fire right as the you had to offset the antenna right as the technicians were there. What that meant was, so yeah, firing completely encapsulates the capsule. That meant was it just blew up and killed them, and that was caused by the fact that the Earth had rotated in a decent amount, or a noticeable amount, since the in the time between when they turned it off and aborted the launch and when they actually fired it up again. So the rocket thought it was off course, so it went and blew up. Fortunately, some of the people there died. But yes, this is Soyuz. It tapers inwards at the center, and the Kodak engines, which are the center engines there, those aren't the real names, those are the current names. Those don't have gimbals, so you can see me attaching those vernier thrusters to the sides. Those are just there to help steer it as gimbals where the engine nozzle turns. So it has the same on the outer boosters. I also forgot you could change their paint scheme to the realistic orange, blackish colour. It's fine. And also, of course, change the name this time. So let's go. So what happened was the Soviets launched their Soyuz rocket, and then the Americans launched theirs a bit afterwards, their Saturn 1B, and they docked in orbit. They did have to have a special modification as the Americans used a different pressurization, and due to things such as the Armstrong limit, where the boiling point of water reaches the temperature of blood in your body, which is why astronauts have to have a full pressure suit. So yeah, we're just about to separate that stage. Yeah, I also forgot to put RCS on this, so I just quickly went on that, slapped that on and redid it. Yeah, they didn't want that to happen to the Soviet cosmonauts, so all they simply did was they had an adapter for the Americans to change the pressure, and you'll see me building it in a second probably. So yeah, this is my redo where I added RCS to the thing so it was actually steerable, and this is obviously filmed in advance, and also I've forgotten this to remember the fact. So yeah, so we're just adding modifications. The Saturn one being the American. I forgot that the Soyuz has solar panels. But anyway, let's not get too bent up about it. So I was just looking at things to use for this. I thought maybe use a fuel tank, but no, that won't work. It also kind of works as an adapter because they had different. Yes, I just used the structural tubes. They had different docking ports. All the different capsules. I could make it the same, but I just wanted, to have some actual practicality in the Kerbal sense as well. It's a structural tube as well, so you can't go for it. But just my staging, and this always happens on a globe rocket like this, was messed up, and I had to fix that. So now that that's done, let's just get ready for the launch. So that was underneath, and it was like with the lunar lander. Sorry, they would separate, then turn around and reconvene with it. Also, I overshot the Soyuz, which you can see I set as a target, and its orbital line is the yellow object. Also, some of the engines overheated, the vector engines, and the footage is sped up for you, but it wasn't for me. And also, I had a lot of problems with stability, and I'm pitching up like this so I don't fall in front of my apoapsis, so I don't start falling, because then we'll just fall back into the atmosphere, and we have plenty of fuel, so it doesn't matter much in that sense, but it does in this. So just creating a maneuver node, carefully lining everything up, and firing for the docking. It's a big thing in the news, and it happened in 1975, I believe. But yeah, if you look at like pictures and artists, you'll notice just how much larger, even though it carried more people, the Apollo spacecraft is compared to the Soyuz. I mean, both in their latest missions carried 3 people. Well, the Soyuz carries 3 people, and the Apollo, pretty much all the missions carried 3. So that's the same, even though obviously Apollo missions had they're way more spacious, despite the fact that it's still small, because I mean, it's a rocket. There's only so much space inside of it, especially since it's a moon mission. It's not just a normal mission. So those are the truss sections for a different space station and building called the KSS. It's International Space Station, but ISS, but Kerbal Edition, because Kerbal's space program doesn't have things like countries, so it's just the unified Kerbal Space and Kerbal Space Station. So another maneuver node here, overshot it a tiny bit, like 1 second. It's not that it's pretty negligible, and just quick burns to get that down really low, except I was doing it the other way. That's why you see me sometimes changing nodes. Just getting it down as much as possible. So here we are. We're right next to it, and we have to slow down completely in our relative distance to the target, which you can see on the nav ball. and I had to transfer some of the fuel because this bug where some of the fuel wasn't actually used. So yeah, the Soyuz, we just had to turn it, just docking's easier that way. And of course we slowed down our relative distance, because it's just easier to dock that way. Well, for obvious reasons. Because when you get misaligned, it's easier to correct if you do that. It's just moving towards each other. And also because the Apollo spacecraft is just moving further down, which is not a good idea. So switch that eventually, but it was removed to quick save. Two crafts drifted quite far apart, and I just thought I should burn the engine that way, or give it a quick burn, because they were getting too far apart. Just firing the RCS up. We'll slow down right, as you can see here. Right, we're in front of them. And we almost got to docking, but we weren't able to. And that was quite annoying. No, I bet in real life, even though this is sped up, it was still pretty fast, even for me. Even though it's only 3 meters per second. I thought I'd just fire the engine, but that's not going to work very well for obvious reasons. The engine's thrust is so much higher than the RCS thrusters. I had to constantly rotate them, so I had to change my keybinds, and bam, got them docked. Opened the hatch, but then I realised the docking port, yeah, it runs into a structural tube which you can't go through. Yes, this is what it looked like in real life. So they docked, and of course that's the end for us. So first we just fire a quick retrograde burn, which we've already done, and we separate the capsule, and it will drift in the atmosphere until it lands. But we had a bit of a problem with that. No spoilers. So deploy the drogue chutes, and it's about to land. Then I 1 to 10 times warp, and it breaks parachutes off, and it crashes into the ground 10,000 meters per second. I counted that as not too much of a failure. And just burning it retrograde again, and warping into the atmosphere. So I just thought what would happen if I decouple those service modules. And we're about to enter thicker areas, which are about 50,000 meters. As you can see, that's when the plasma starts forming around it from the friction with the air. Slowing down. This mission doesn't end in disaster like the other one, luckily, or unluckily. No, I'm not that cynical. But yes, okay guys, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please drop a like down below, as we're just about to land here. Of course, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. I'm sorry about the lack of uploads recently. I'll try and get